Hello, class of Art 200. My name is David Martinez, and for my investigative project, I chose the original statue, Christ of the Abyss. I had a previous interest in the statue, and analyzing it on an academic platform was a nice gateway to understanding the art piece and others similar to it. It was created by sculptor Guido Galletti, who was hired by a diver that wanted to dedicate it to Dario Gonzatti. Gonzatti was the first diver to use scuba gear and passed away during a dive near the location off of San Frittuso, Italy. The medium of this 2.5 high statue is quite unique. Medals of deceased loved ones such as Olympic athletes, Marines, firefighters, and others were used to create the bronze statue. The most important factor of the statue is its location and use of space. Christ of the Abyss encounters a unique environment 15 meters deep in the Mediterranean Sea. This adds more characteristic to the statue, as seen in majority of art pieces which are placed in locations of unusual environments. It was placed here in 1954. Christian-related art has been around longer than any art historian's knowledge of it, which is why they were split between where it originated from. It is unknown whether art of this religion rose from Orient or Rome, but it is almost certain that it came from the eastern region. By connection of where Christianity began and discoveries of Jewish art in the Near East, it is assumed that this art was indeed inspired by Jewish art, although, like religion, art of this theme was an independent creation. Majority of early Christian art includes paintings, which show scenes that Christ encountered throughout his life. The first art piece which depicts him similarly to my object that I found in my research is the Transfiguration of Christ, which is shown here. He is illustrated in a peaceful manner and is wearing an identical wardrobe. He is also centered by the figures around him. The painting emerged from the Renaissance movement in Rome, which promoted humanism and individualism. Portraits grew in value, and artists began to work for their own motivation or that of gods. It is possible that this is why art shifted towards illustrating him in a more humanistic manner. Now that we have some understanding of Christian art, let's examine the statue again. It is covered in moss and sea life. The wardrobe he wears is smooth and a common style on figures of divinity. This gives the statue a feeling of a higher religious entity being present. The arms are spread apart and directed upwards, which influences a calm welcoming. Because this was a memorial to the first diver to use scuba, Dario Gonzatti, you can also interpret this as Christ watching over the divers of the sea, as he is the overseeing God of Christianity. The body's position creates a symmetrical balance, which we will see is common in statues of him throughout the world. The location is the most important aspect and what attracts attention to the statue. Unlike any art throughout our course, the statue is submerged undersea. The beautiful environment it encounters adds characteristic that we do not see in most of the art around us. The sea life growing on it makes the statue feel natural and gives life to an inanimate object. An art piece that is adored by the scuba community in the area and was actually reconstructed in 2003 after corrosion caused one of the arms to detach. The space this statue works with is also extremely unique. When we look at art, usually there's a limited amount of perspectives that we can visualize. Unless you are flying, statues placed above water are only visible from the ground. Unlike those, you can swim around the Christ of the Abyss and visualize every part of the structure, except the bottom, but the platform is obviously significantly less important. In the Mediterranean Sea, art is profound enough to have the community care for it and attract divers up to present time. This representation of Christ is not only significant to one community, and because Christianity is one of the largest religions in the world, there are statues similar to it, which are shown here. The identical statues are placed in locations where he is positioned as an overseeing entity. As we view these different statues, it is important to remember the location of Christ is welcoming to the public. His symmetric balance creates a peaceful welcoming to everyone who encounters it. As we look at the space around Christ in each of these images, we see that all of them direct towards an open area of space. This creates a vast feeling of a protective presence throughout these areas. After all, Christ is the all-seeing God in this religion. These positions and direction of space further emphasize this. Now, let's take a look at other art pieces. On the left is a shrine dedicated to the Buddhist religion, but let's focus on the centerpiece. Buddha is centered in the middle and positioned in meditation. His position and similar smooth wardrobe influence a relaxed presence of divinity. The location is a pilgrimage destination that is ultimately supposed to deepen faith. Although Christ of the Abyss is not a pilgrimage location, you're in a sense of accomplishment when reaching both of these religious art pieces. On the right is an image of a Buddhista, which is one of the most powerful beings and variations of Buddhist beliefs. Just like Jesus Christ, God the Son, the figure remains on earth to help people reach their faith. Location and space here are not comparable to my object, but again we see smooth drape-like clothing, a clear symbolization of a religious wardrobe. We can also see that the difference of the right leg and right arm balance out the torso and the left arm, making the piece symmetrical as well. The positioning makes this figure much more approachable and graceful. This position is exactly the same throughout other representations of it, similarly to the positions of Christ being identical throughout the world. The religious entities represented are similarly shown as welcoming and in peace. Although the two religions are drastically different, the location and space of these works create the same theme. It is astonishing how significant Christ of the Abyss is around the world, and the originality of space and location. The remembrance of these statues brings characteristic that other art does not hold. It is art like this that will continue to draw attention and retain the symbolism that each of them represent.